morning everyone. Today let's start with property concept. So what are different types of properties available in SOAP tool? How to use in our SOAP projects? So first let me start with what are different types of properties available. One is global properties, another one is project level properties, and another one is test suite level properties and test case level properties. There are four types of properties available. Let's start with let's start with global properties first. So coming to the step 1 here, come to our XML. In every request we will pass the data between any attribute. That means here we have, by default we will have question mark in sector. Here if I want to pass a data, I will type a data manually and we will run the request and we will receive the response. If I want to read the data from some different sources, then how to handle it? Let me start with global properties first. To work with global properties, we have to come to the file menu tab, and on that click on preferences. Once you click on preferences, here we have different settings. Whatever settings we have here, all the settings will be useful at any project level. That means in SOAP tool we can create multiple projects. For any project can use all the settings. That means HTTP settings, proxy settings, SSL settings, residual settings, UI testings. All settings belongs to the any project whatever we created in SOAP tool. In that now we are discussing about global properties. Coming to the global properties, here already I have created earlier. I am deleting all this and I will start with scratch. So in global properties, here we have two columns. One is for value and another one is for name and another one is for value. To add a property here, we have to click on this plus symbol to add a property to the property list. If I click on plus, here I am adding sector. Sector is a property name, and if I want to give a value, we have to type it manually. I am giving sector as C. If I want to add one more property, we have to click on plus symbol. From currency, here I am giving property name as from currency and I am giving value as USD. I am adding one more property. Like this we can add multiple properties to the property list. So if I want to delete any of the property, we have to select that particular property and click on cross button. If I click on cross button, by default it will be deleted, as we have seen earlier. These all are different buttons to use it to user friendly to use. This is for if I want to move up any property, if I want to move down this, and if I click on this sorts properties alphabetically from sector to currency, it comes under alphabetical order. And another one is if I want to clear all current property values, if I click on this, clear all property values, that means whatever values we have assigned here, all will be deleted from value list. See, all the values has deleted. If we want to give it, we have to give it again manually. So here global properties as different options, we can use it as per our requirement. And another two more important options it has. One is, if you see, if we keep the cursor on this option, we can see loads property values from an external file. That means if I want to read the data from Excel file and I want to keep it here, instead of USD I want to read the data from the Excel sheet. I want to do it. How can we do it? We can write using Groovy script. Only we can read the data from XML files. So we can see it in later classes how to read the data from Excel sheets using Groovy script. And another option is if you keep cursor on that point, it shows saves current property values to a file. If I want to write this data to any file, any XML file or any Excel file, if I want to rewrite this data to the external file, we can do it using these options. So see here we have to select and this data will be right into that folder. There are different options available. We can use it based on our requirements. Here in global properties I have added 3 properties to the property list and I have assigned values here. After that, click on OK button. By default all the properties added to the global properties list, but I have received here an error pop-up due to some settings problem in my machine. So if you come to cross check, come to file, preferences again and come to the global properties. Here you can see all the properties are and values are added properly. And there is a shortcut here. You can see if you want to click on preferences, you can click on Ctrl plus Alt plus P. If you using keyboard, by default you can use that predefined keywords, simple keywords. Without come to the file and preferences, we can press Ctrl Alt P. Okay, now we did setup in global properties. How to use global properties in our request XML? It is very simple. So what we use it to do, in sector tag, in question mark place, we use it to write the data manually. Instead of writing the data, we can read the data from some place, some properties list. So there is a predefined syntaxes we can use to read the data from properties list. Instead of writing the syntax manually, we can right click on that place and come to the get data and come to the global properties. In global properties you can see we have created from currency, we have created sector, we have created to currency. In that if I want to select sector, click on property sector. By default will come to here #sector. This is the syntax. If we want to write it manually, we can write it $symbol and open curly braces and give the property name which we created at project global properties and close the curly braces. We can run this request. If you run this request, you can see sector we received as C. And to cross check is C is passed in our request or not, come to the raw tab. Here you can see in request sector C is passing. So this is about global properties. So here as I said, we have different types of properties. That means we can read data from different sources. One is global and another one is project level and another one is test suite level and another one is test case level. So we discussed about project levels, and here we can see the differences of the syntaxes how we are using in different level. So global properties, this is the syntax we have to write, $symbol and within curly braces we can pass the property name. Same way we can look into the project level, test suite level and test case level. Here we have different projects. If you come to the, as we are working on weather project, double click on weather. So when we click on weather, in our previous classes we have seen what is overview, what is test suites, what is WS security configuration, security scan defaults. We have seen all the tabs. Explaining one more time, in overview we can see file path and where our file is stored, that is related to the project related information. And another one important concept here is test summary. In test summary we can see how many test suites we created under this weather project. If I created 3 test suites, here we can see test suites will be 3, but present I have created 1 test suite, that is the reason we are able to see 1. And moving to the test cases, how many test cases we created under test suites. And at the same time, for example, if I have 3 test suites and each test suite I created 3 test cases, that means 3 is 9, so we can see 9 test cases here. But as of now I have created only 1 test case under 1 test suite, that is the reason we are able to see test case is 1. Moving to the test steps. In test steps we can see 3, that means in test case 1 I have created 3 steps, that is the reason we are able to see test steps count is 3. And assertions, I have added 2 assertions, that is the reason we are receiving count as 2. And test suites, whatever test suites we created, all will come under here. Okay, here only we have created test suite 1, that is the reason we were able to see only 1. And as we are talking about properties, in weather you can see project properties and custom properties. In project properties, whatever properties we have here, all will come by default when we create a project. Here we can see project name is weather, that means when I created a project I have given project name as weather, that is the reason we are able to see name as weather. And next one is description, it shows nothing, that means when I am creating a project I have not given any description information there, that is the reason we are able to see description as null. Another one is file, and with value it shows the path, that means it is showing the path where our project is stored. All are by default will come. And another important option here is we have scripting language. In scripting language we have 2 types, one is Groovy script and JavaScript. If we want to write a project, if we want to use JavaScript in our coding level, we can select JavaScript, but as OPI supports Groovy, by default programming language will come as Groovy. And hence config, which is related to the system configuration, that is directories and IP configuration, that is the reason we were able to see user.home as system name. So the main point here we have to remember is whatever properties came under project properties are by default will come along with the tool when we created a project. Okay, coming to the custom properties. Custom properties means user will create a properties based on his requirements. So if I want to read the data from project level, I can create all the properties in custom properties at project level, because in one project I have created 10 test suites. In 10 test suites I want to use the same data. Okay, so in that case we can declare all the properties which I want to use at test suite level, all I can declare in project custom properties. To same as we have seen in global properties, same way we have to click on plus symbol to add a property. We can write like this, from currency. Already I have created sector, that is the reason I'm adding one more to show USD. This way we can add it. Again, as I discussed, we have the same options if I want to delete, whatever options we have seen in global properties, here also we can see the same properties all as is. So to add a property plus symbol, to delete a property cross, if I want to move up, move down, if I want to keep it in sorting order, or if I want to clear all current property values, and another one is to read the data from external files, to write property values data into the another file. So all the options we can use it as per our requirements. So as we have seen, read the data from global properties, there is a syntax with dollar symbol. So same way, if I want to read the data from project level, we need to do the same way. Right click, use get data option, come to the project level. If we come to the project weather, there we can see property sector and property from currency. Here I am selecting property sector. See, if you see here, the syntax is changed. You can compare with the global property syntax. If you see here, the difference is when we use global properties, the syntax starts with the dollar symbol, and in curly braces by default we have given sector, that is property name. But when it comes to the project level, here we can see syntax will be same. Additionally, we have received as project. This means we are taking sector property name from project level. That is the difference. So based on this, we can write the syntaxes for test suite and test case as well, because these syntaxes are predefined syntaxes. So to read the data from project level, the syntax will be as project as sector. If I want to read it from test suite level, as I said, we can create the properties at different levels. As we have seen how we created in project level, same way we can create at test suite level and test case level. So for project, instead of project, we can give test suite. Same test case level also we can do test case. This is the differences in syntaxes. So we can see it because in test suite level already I have created custom properties, that is I created TS sector TSA, and test case level also I created test case sector TCA. And test case properties, when we created test case properties, by default test case property name came as test case 1. So we cannot add any. If you see here, test case properties is system generated properties. That is the reason we cannot add any properties here. If you click on properties, if you click to hide, we can click on properties. If I want to show, click on properties. So here we do not have any plus symbol or cross symbol, because these properties, test case properties, which came by default, which are system generated, we cannot add, we cannot delete, but we can handle with custom properties which user can create, user can delete. Same way applicable for test suite project level as well. Here we can see test suite properties, we have property name, and when it comes to the custom properties, we cannot have any, we can create based on our requirements. Test suite properties by default system generated, again same, we cannot delete, we cannot edit. We can see the syntaxes examples here. This is step 2. I am reading the data from test case level. So the syntax is test case, T, C is capital, and parameter name. Delete, right click here, get data. Here you can see global level properties, and here also we can create it. Instead of going file preferences global properties, from here also we can create. And coming to the project level, property from currency, and test suite level create new property TS sector, same test case level as well. Step level also we can see different properties, but we can look into it later, as everyone will use from project level, test suite level and test case level only. Test step level we will use it very rare. Again step 2, step 3, Groovy script also we can see it, but we can see it later. Step, how it will be useful. See, if you learn any topic, we have to think about how we can use all these concepts in framework level, because whatever we are using, we should use each and every topic in framework level. So till now we discussed about properties. So if I want to read data from test suite level, I am selecting here test suite and TS sector. If I run this one, we received sector as TSA, test suite A. Come to the raw tab, and here we can see TSA is passing from our request. We received it from test suite property level. So these all are about properties concept. Repeating one more time, we have 4 types of properties. One is global properties, project properties, test suite properties and test case level properties. Global level means whatever properties we created under global level, we can use those properties in any project. Whatever whatever projects we created in SOAP-AI, we can use it for all projects. When comes to the project level, we can use it for that particular project. For example, under one project I have created 10 test suites. That means those project properties I can use it for all 10 test suites. Test suite level properties. Under one test suite I have created 10 test cases. So I can use all test suite properties for all test cases. Test case level properties. Whatever properties I created under test case level, I can use it for test steps whatever I created. This is in detail discussion about properties. And moving to the another topic which we discussed earlier and which is very important, related to the Groovy script. Here if we see, script is invoked with log, context and Testrunner variables. We already discussed about log, context. Now we can discuss about Testrunner variables. We will use log to display the data in log output. If we write log.info, that means it will print in log output. Context variable. Context variable means every test step. For example, in one test case we have 10 tests. We created 10 test steps. That means each and every test step have its own context variable. So if you want to work with response, if you want to work with particular test step request or response, if I want to read the data from the response for particular element, in all the combinations we have seen how to use context variable to read the data from the response and to read data from particular attribute from the response. So coming to the Testrunner, the difference between context and Testrunner variable is simple, because it's very important question in interviews, like what is the difference between context and Testrunner variables. Context means every test case or step will have its own context variable. But when it comes to the Testrunner variable, Testrunner can be used to access all levels. All levels means project level, test suite level, test case level, test step level. In all the cases, in all the levels, we can access using Testrunner variable. For example, here test step 1 is there. I want to access step 1. How can I access? Using Testrunner variable, I can access it. There are some syntaxes, and Testrunner, R is capital. I'm telling one point every time, that is Groovy scripting, whatever syntaxes, whatever keywords we are writing, all are case sensitive. So we need to remember which is capital and small. In Testrunner, R is capital here. So using Testrunner, first I can see simple methods what we have. If I want to cancel one method, one test case, Testrunner.cancel, and I give that step. Like this we can cancel the particular test step. If I want to fail, we can write Testrunner.fail. If I want to get reason why it is failing, we can use get reason. We have different methods are available for Testrunner. In that Testrunner, one is cancel and another one is fail and another one is get reason. These all are very important methods. And one more advantage with Testrunner is it navigates to various levels in SOAP-AI. That is one more important. So as I said, Testrunner will be used to access all levels. That means if I want to access test case, the syntax will be Testrunner.testCase. Here C is capital. So like this I can write. To access the test case, how can I write? The syntax will be Testrunner.testCase. If I want to access test suite, here the syntax will be Testrunner.testCase.testSuite. If I want to access project, Testrunner.testCase.testSuite.project. These all are predefined syntaxes. Using these syntaxes, we can access the all levels in SOAP-AI. To access test case level, to access test suite level, to access project level. Okay. So there is one more syntax. If I want to read the script level to get one particular test step that I want, like if I have written something in test step, I need something. So if I want to handle with Groovy script level, I want to handle with one step. So the structure will be project. In project, how it will access? Test suites. We have to give that test suites name. And if I in test suites, test case names. In test case, test steps. Like this, we can access particular test step in any project. So this is very important because the structure in project, under project test suites, under test suites test cases, under test cases it will be multiple test steps. Here why we are writing here test suites, test cases, test steps means in one project we can create multiple test suites. That is the reason we have to use test suites. In that we have to give the name which test suite we want to work. Again test cases, because which test case we want to work. Test steps, in that which test step we want. Okay, these all are very important under test lab, because when we work on Testrunner we need to know what the structure looks like. Here I have some predefined code which I want to explain. So here using Testrunner, what I have written is, using Groovy script I want to run step 1, otherwise I want to run step 2. After running step 2, I want to read the data from response. So for example, I want to read the data from fault code. from the response after running the request. So what I need to do to run particular test step, that means I need the access of that test step, then only I can run it, right? So if I want to work with particular test step, first I have to get the access. To get the access, what should I use? I should use Testrunner variable. And in that we have one more important method is WSDL testrun context. In WSDL testrun context, it has a namespace that is com eyvar.sopi.implementation.WSDL.testcase. Under this we have one class that is WSDL testrun context. It has multiple methods, and if you see here, in WSDL testrun context, this is a constructor. In that we can use Testrunner and we can pass the properties or parameters to work with. And in WSDL testrun context also many methods will be available. Get test case, get Testrunner, using test case runner method. Okay, these all are very important methods, and we can use any of the methods based on our requirements. So coming to our program, here my requirement is I want to run any of the step 1 or step 2, and I want to read the data for particular element. So here I have used two namespaces. I have imported two statements. One is import testcase.WSDL testrun context, and another one is SOPI support.xml holder. First one is to run a particular method using Testrunner, we have to import that namespace. Another one, XML holder one, already we discussed in context topic. In that, where we want to work with the responses, that is, if you want to work with the responses, we should use XML holder namespace. So we have imported that one as well. So the third statement is, if I want to access I want to run the step 1 or step 2. These step 1, step 2 are under test suite, under test case. So first I have to access the test suite. To access the test suite, as we have seen the syntaxes, we have to use this one, because to access test suite we have to write like this: testrunner.testcase.testsuite. Okay, in that I have written like this: test suite, testrunner, test case, test suite. In test suite I have to tell the system, right, which test suite, which test case, which test step. In that, so in test suite, in test cases we can have multiple test cases, but here I have only one test case 1, but we can have multiple test cases. Here I am giving test case 1. In that test steps I am giving step 1. If I want to work with step 2, we have to give step 2. Okay, after that, as I said, there is a class WSDL testrun context. We have to use WSDL testrun context method. In that I am passing the parameters or properties which we want to use. Okay, if I want to run particular test step in Testrunner, there is a method called runner. So in my request variable, what it has? It knows what is the test case and what is the test step we want to run. So when using the run method, my request knows that it is using test case 1 as test case and the step 2 we want to run. In that we have to use the variables as parameters, as one is Testrunner and another one is test step context, which has WSDL testrun context and my request. Using this step, we will run our step. Once it runs the test step, I will show you. First I will run that part, later we can see. If I am running this one, we can see step 2 is running and information pop-up is displayed, because we have here you can see WSDL test request step results. So this is informational pop-up because we are not displaying anything here. If you see in script result com.eyware.sopi.implementation visual test case visual test run request step result, that means it has executed successfully and step 2 is executed. Now if I want to work with the step 2 and I want to read the response, in that I want fault string whatever we have in the response. To do that, as we worked in context topic, I will remove some of the code which is not required. So here I want to work with the response, right? So to work with the response, if you see in test and context, we have the request and using my run it has executed. Okay, after executing we have a method to work with the request and responses. To read from the, after execution, if you want to read the response, there is a method called expand. So I have created two variables, one is for response and another one is for request. In that we have to use test step context dot expand. There is a predefined syntax, we have open the bracket and in single quotes we can give dollar symbol. In that give the step 1, which step response we want, which step request we want. Here I have executed step 2, right? I need step 2 response. I want to work on step 2 request. So step 1 request and step 2 request, step 2 response will be stored in response variable and request variable respectively. Now if I want to read a data of particular element from the response, then what should I use? I have created two more variables called response XML and request XML. Let me work with only response to avoid the confusion. We need fault. So okay, response is in response variable. So if I want to work with the particular element in the response, I have created one variable diff response XML equal to new XML holder and response. Okay, response will be stored in RXML. So there is a method after received the response. To read the data of the particular element, there is a method called get node value. Using get node value, we can read the particular element data from the response. So if I use the get node variable, what the parameter should I use in this method? Using XPath, we can read the data from the response. So in essence, we have already seen how to use the XPath, how to read the data from the XPath and how to write the XPaths. So here I want the data from the fault code. That means we can use the double slash. That means it will ignore all the before syntaxes, before tags. By default it will search with the where fault code in the response. That is the reason we have written double slash fault code. In fault code we have written response XML dot get node value. In that we have given the fault code tag name. In get node value always we should give the XPaths. XPath means to read the data from the particular element. Using response structure we have to write the XPaths. Here I am printing login for fault code. I am running this code. Here step 2 is running and after that it prints the fault code as server. It matches with the step 2 fault code. And assertions we have only SOAP response structure, it is validating. In request log, how many times we have executed in a day, see with the time we can see the response time, how much time it took to run this test step. In logs we can see all this information. These all are different logs available. Coming to the Groovy script, we have seen this. So I am repeating everything whatever we discussed till now. We have discussed two important concepts today. One is properties. What are different levels of properties we can use in our projects, and another one is Testrunner variable. to access all levels in the project. So because all these pieces of concepts we will use it in a framework level, because when we create a framework we will not enter the data manually into the test requests. We should read the data from multiple sources, that is using Excel files or using global properties or project level properties, all the things. So in next class we can see how to read the data from the Excel sheets and how to keep it in request. Now we have seen using global properties, project, test suite, test case level within project using tool. But how to read the data from the external sources? We can see all the concepts in coming classes. Okay, thank you all. Please reach out to me if you have any queries.